Hi, I'm Greg Yellen with Reynolds, and this is Connected. Today I have an in-person interview, which is always exciting in the Connected studio here in beautiful Dayton, Ohio. I get to sit down with Amberly Montgomery, who is our Growth and Development Manager for Naked Lime Marketing. Amberly, thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having me, Greg. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been on the speaking circuit a little bit lately, something a little new for you, at least for us. But you were on Ted Ing's Fixed Ops Roundtable, Brian Patch's event in Austin, the Digital Strategies Marketing Conference, DSMC. I usually just say that, so it rolls off the tongue a little bit better. But I wanted to start there, and we'll get to the content in a little bit. But I'm curious for those that either have spoken at events like this, have participated in events like this, or maybe want to do it in the future. From your perspective, what's it been like, especially prep-wise, right? You think, okay, I got 30 minutes or 15 minutes or however much time, but it takes a lot to be prepared to be there. Mm-hmm. So what's that look like for you?
Yeah, I do a lot of writing and rewriting. I've been doing this since I was in college, even studying for tests. Like, even if I know the information, being able to see it and then almost type it out myself. I have had a lot of helpful people who have also given me anecdotes and also just experience guiding me through these things. So that's been helpful, but I like to take some of their notes and put it in my own words. And again, by typing and writing, reading, I like to read it when I first get done with it, put it away for a couple days, read it again. So that's typically what my prep's like. And honestly, just trying to run through scenarios in my head, what questions they could ask, what I would like to get out and say, but I don't always want to deviate the conversation. So
Sure.
Trying to figure out a couple different ways to work that in. So really just a lot of looking down, reading, and then just building your confidence. Talking with people I know is a lot easier than talking to a bigger room. So I enjoy both types, but they present different challenges each time.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So when you write it out, I'm always curious for people, do you prefer like long form, like almost speaking and typing it out, or do you prefer bullets or like an outline? What's your preference, or maybe where do you start and where do you finish?
Yeah, I start almost narrative. So I start paragraph wise almost to get out exactly what I want to say. Yeah. And then before I'll go back and bullet it out from there. So I've got the gist. I've probably practiced the narrative part already. Yep. And once that goes for when I'm talking, it's like, okay, I can't read that narrative. I want to have eye contact. So then I bullet out like, make sure you hit this part. Like, you know, you want to hit that. So that becomes the trajectory. So start narrative, go down to bullets.
Yeah, that's how I like to do it too. A lot of people though, they'll start, outline and just boom, boom, boom. But for me, I just, for whatever reason, getting it all out on paper and then you can cut and paste and adjust and add and delete. So I don't know. I agree.
I'm the same way. I was a communications major. So like I did long form before and then have slowly transitioned into marketing, which is a lot more short form content. So I thought that was just how my brain worked. Like originally I really wanted to be, public speaking, telling these long form stories, but then the message and how it gets received should be more short form. So it's almost, it's a process for me. But I like that you do it as well. It doesn't make me feel as crazy.
So do you use video at all in your prep? Do you record yourself?
Sometimes a mirror. So I don't record myself unless it is a bigger initiative. We've used some video in our department where we'll release videos on updates, and those times I'll probably do one or two where I'll watch it back and be like, I can do that better. So in that form, I'll do a practice run and then redo it. But most of the time it's just me in a room talking to myself, getting caught by my employees, like walking by, when I'm just, trying to get it all out into the ether so I can formulate it into a better cohesive word.
Yeah. I'm a big, practice is the most important part for me. There's something about that video though, where you can play it back, you can hear the way that it sounds, you see how you look. That's even part of it too. When you're on video or when you're on a stage, yes, the words are extremely important, but also what's your presence like? What do you look like when you're up there? I don't know. It's something that's kind of difficult to get used to and comfortable with, but I've found a lot of value in it. I don't know.
That's a good tip. I think I should try it more often. And since we have systems that do it, it could be easy. So that's a really good tip. Because I think I find myself, even right now in this, I'm like, what should I put my art? Like, you're thinking about it, even if you're having the conversation. So if you just got it out and were able to practice that before, I think that would be more helpful.
Yeah.
Good tip.
That's good. All right. So let's get into what you've been talking about, which which, obviously I'm definitely familiar with. I don't know if the whole audience is, though. Not everybody gets to go to all these types of events. We try to push it out as much as we can, but it is interesting stuff. So I'm excited to kind of dive into it. So one of the things we've done for a long time with Naked Lime is a brand retention and defection report. So essentially we look at every vehicle traded in the U.S. over the course of the last 12 months. And when that vehicle's traded in, we look at what vehicle was purchased. So you calculate brand defection or brand retention, however you want to look at it, right? Half full or half empty across the brands. And this year we expanded that quite a bit. So I know you've been kind of diving into it and going through a lot of the things that stood out. So maybe call out some of the highlights and we can jump into a couple.
Yeah, I think over the last couple years, this report has been really helpful because of just some of the things that the industry has been going through. And so seeing that retention rates for most brands were still on the rise, I thought that was a big highlight of the year. Toyota still being at the top, which shouldn't be a surprise to very many people, but they are at least 10% higher than Honda, which was their closest competitor. So they're still significantly above most of their competitors, which I always find is interesting that they can have that track, which just goes to show you how important loyalty is. That once you have it and you can continue to build it, you can stay stronger in that area where all these other brands struggle to increase 1% to 2% per year.
Right.
So I think Toyota being on top was interesting. The other two parts, the truck retention rates also stood out to me. So 70% of the time, someone would trade in a truck, they would buy another truck. So although gas prices have been on the rise, people are still buying trucks. It did go down year over year, but still over 70% is still a pretty significant loyalty rate on that front. And then another big thing that we added per the report was the regional breakdown. So across the United States, buying habits are vastly different, which is a big reason why we use marketing in all of these places and why dealerships need us in that regard. So, looking that the Northeast has the highest retention rate, where the Southwest has the lowest retention rates, I'm sure that changes the way you're using your marketing dollars and trying to capture conquest customers or how you're trying to market your customers to buy another one of your vehicles back. So it's going to change depending on your brand, your location, what type of vehicle, truck, car, all the above.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. So diving into a couple of those, I guess first, when you think about retention, right? And so I'm a dealer. I have a certain make of vehicle that I sell, right? And I know that retention on that vehicle across the country is 50% or less, unless I'm Toyota, and then it's 60%. But still, 4 out of 10 people are going to drive something else when they trade that Toyota in. How much impact can a dealer, a retailer have on retention, if any?
Yeah,
do you think there's an impact?
I do. I think about my experiences today. I drive a Buick. I don't like to say that out loud because I'm probably not going to buy another Buick after I get done. My experience in their service drive has an impact on that. The quality of the vehicle, the longevity of the vehicle has an impact on that.
Right.
But also their marketing efforts. The first couple years that I owned that, I felt like they did really well with that. I became part of a loyalty program where I got 10% off any services. And then they either moved away from that marketing effort, it either wasn't working out for them. But even if I didn't take advantage of it, I already felt like, I guess this isn't as important to me.
Yeah.
So they did that through email marketing. And then I also can see a lot of their billboards because I'm in the area. I can also see their digital ads. So I definitely think there's a way to use this report and to use your own data, both to help you grow and retain your customers, whether that be, making sure that you're getting them back into the service drive or when they're ready to buy again, you're ready to hit them with the messages that they'd want.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually hadn't thought of it in that light before. So I've always viewed retention, and it's kind of a leading question. You went somewhere that I wasn't expecting, but I've always viewed it as either I like the car or I don't, right? Either it's a well-made car and it's treated me well and it's lasted, and I've enjoyed driving it because most likely, you're in a certain style of vehicle for a reason, right? If you're a truck driver, to your point, you probably want to tow stuff, or you want a truck bed for something. If you drive a large SUV, you probably have to haul a bunch of kids or a bunch of stuff around, right? If you're in a small SUV, there's a reason for that too. So for whatever reason, I've always had it in my head that retention is based off of really the vehicle. But you make a really good point in that the ownership experience, like everything else, isn't all reality. Some of it is perception, right? And you mentioned marketing and being able to shape that perception. I think that's really interesting when you put the dealer in the middle and you look at it through the lens of ownership experience, right? How do you make that ownership experience feel special? Because that can overcome any deficiencies in a vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely. And dealerships do that too, right? Yeah. Even my experience when I walk into their service drive, I know amenities don't seem as important anymore, because you usually drop it off. But I haven't had a loaner car recently. Those have been, and I realize, the reasons why that's the case, but that's kind of rubbed me the wrong way, where if I have to leave my vehicle there, now I have to rely on someone else to take me places. When I first bought my vehicle, the first 5 years of ownership, they offered me a loaner car almost even for an oil change. And maybe that's not realistic, right? On the flip side, but knowing that those amenities are there and knowing the lack of them at this time, I think that's a great marketing tactic. And you can advertise that through email marketing, through social media advertising too. Loaner cars, rental cars, people are looking for those. Yeah. So if you can get somebody to rent a car from you, that could get them excited about that vehicle. Because I feel like that's the only way you can test drive a vehicle without buying one.
I agree.
So there's a lot of marketing programs that I think you could do as a dealership to get people interested in your make. And you could use this brand Defection report to find the ones that might be most interested in. So if someone's most likely to defect from a Ford to a Chevrolet, you should market to the Ford customers in your area that you have rental cars available.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a lot of marketing that goes into that, and the ownership piece and feeling like you're a part of something. Jeep does that really well. I don't know about Jeep dealers specifically, because Jeep, I was surprised to read, had a lower retention rate too, probably because it's not, the Wrangler's probably high, I would assume, and then everything else is a little lower. But you're right, it's all about the experience and the quality of the car. It's it's got to be both.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned loaners and rentals, and I'm curious your perspective on this. I don't know, it's been rolling around in my head because it's been a little bit top of mind, but what are your thoughts on Uber as a medium to do that, right? So you drop the vehicle off for an oil change, to use your example, and maybe you can get in and out, maybe you can't. Maybe it's going to be a couple hours, right? Because they're going to do an inspection. It's going to take 30 minutes to get back there. Obviously, it takes time to do the work. Maybe they're courteous and they do a car wash for you too. That's another 10 minutes. Like the time adds up. But what are your thoughts on Uber as a way to provide somebody transportation, whether that's either you doing it as a consumer, just getting on your phone and pulling out the app and spend the $12 or whatever it is, or the dealership providing it? I don't know. Have you any experience or any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have Ubered to a dealership before to get it. But I think it'd be great if a dealer offered complimentary vouchers, especially if they know you're going to wait, or had them in, had a stack of them right there so that you could take one if you needed it. It might be hard to regulate, but I think they could figure out a program with that. I've definitely had to use that before when, my husband's been out of town or the timing just doesn't align up. So I think if a dealership could help with that in any way, I think that would be effective for sure.
Good. No, it's interesting. I've heard a few different conversations around it, and I'm trying to put the pieces together with where's the impact, and it's all about convenience, I think, right? It's really what it is. So
yeah, I don't hear as much dealers doing the shuttle service very much anymore. That used to be a big thing, and that's gone away. So it would be natural to use some of these systems that are already in place and just be able to, have your customers use them with their help too.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
All right, so you were, you listed off kind of a few things, right? Toyota being high, truck, regional breakdowns. But one of the things I'm curious in is So you have a lot of experience. You joined Naked Lime. We were talking before we started recording 11 years ago, which was about 6 months after the brand started. So I actually moved over to the brand right before it started and kind of went through that transition, which was a lot of fun. But you've been here, about the whole ride, right? So how have you seen, so data like this, we've had it for a while, right? We've been leaning into it for quite a few years now. How have you seen either dealers use it or people that you've worked with or you personally use it to kind of structure a marketing strategy?
Yeah, it's pretty much how we structure our marketing strategy before. When I first started at Naked Lime, we weren't really using it at all. Or if we were, it was you were going above and beyond, or you were doing something extra, or you had access that someone else didn't. So it wasn't really expected, or just it didn't exist as much.
Yeah, I think that's the key, right? Is at that time, and it seems like it's not that long ago, but in reality, it was like a whole different world. Like all this stuff was just coming about as far as digital advertising. And nobody really had or knew how to use any of this stuff. Yeah,
and even now, you can target email addresses on Google and on Facebook. That has just been a capability within the last 5 years. So right when we first started, it was just, radius and, text ads. And so seeing that change to now the very in-depth, flashy ad types that all these platforms provide, but being able to then target that really compelling creative using that data, we've seen a lot of ROI with our customers. So, playing off even our advanced service product within Reynolds. So we have an advanced service product where you can mark declines. We can now take all of those email addresses that have declined service and retarget them with a social media ad that says, hey, by the way, we care about you. We know you need this. And depends on how long it's been, we could offer them 10% off, 20% off, and get them back in. So if you would have told me we would be able to do that in 10 years, I would have probably been really confused and not sure what we were doing. But it's been exciting. And being able to utilize that Reynolds data and those Reynolds products has made all of our marketing products so much stronger and so much more differentiated than they are, because everyone can advertise on Google and everybody can advertise on Facebook. But it's how you're doing it. It's the creative you're using. It's the messages and it's the data that you're using that's going to set you apart. Yeah,
for sure. And one of the things that really interests me about the brand and retention defection deal is the conquest side of it. So yes, it's good to know how many customers you're keeping, and I really like that lens of that you had mentioned about the ownership experience, right? And how as a dealership you can market to those consumers to provide a great experience and have an impact on something that maybe feels like you don't. So I love that. But the flip side of it, then, there's 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 people in fill in the blank vehicle that aren't going to drive that vehicle next time, right? So how do you know who to target, right? And that's one of the things that the report calls out is by manufacturer, who's your top 5 conquest targets? So I'm curious, have you had any experience kind of tactically going about doing that as well? So how do I find, okay, I know that I want to target just a basic example, Ford drivers, right, or Ford F-150 drivers, or fill in the blank. What does that look like if you're basing it? And obviously, you're going to use more than one data point, but I think it gives a good starting point at least.
Yeah. So part of our database cleansing process allows us to do a VIN title transfer, which allows to show us what cars people are still driving or not still driving. So we have all of this information on all of our customers in there. So that could be that they're not driving one of our make vehicles right now. That means they might be coming into our service drive. They might have bought from us before, but our records show that they've traded that in elsewhere, so they didn't come back to us. So it's like there's these many defection reports within our database that we can look at as well. So we could curate an audience that has our make drivers and be able to target them on email, direct mail, social media, Google. We could target them all over there. We could start there. We could also look at possibly some individual zip codes that have a more propensity to buy another make. So we could target there. So we could use more brand level, so not as granular, but we still have data like this that shows us the the Northeast is more loyal. So here's how you could arrange your marketing a little different. So those are a couple examples that we have used. Conquest seems like a very interesting topic for dealerships. And for good reason, clearly, right? And being able to use the data to do that instead of a broad message is a lot more effective. So again, your service drive is the best place to look if you've got people bringing in non-makes, and then also looking at your database as a whole, and whoever's not driving your make would be the places I would start.
Yeah. So let's talk about that message a little bit too, because I'm always interested in this. And my go-to for any sort of conquest is always like the dare to compare, right? Mm-hmm. So you have, just stick with that truck mantra. So you have, I don't know, your Ford store, and you want a conquest, you're going to go after truck drivers today that are going to defect, right? But they're going to stay in a truck. So dare to compare F-150, Silverado, Ram 1500, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Pick your poison, depending on where you're at in the country. And I think that that's just such a simple and easy way to go about it to bring somebody in. So you have the targeting that brings them in, you have the content that gets them thinking, and then you can move them down the funnel. But what other types of stuff have you seen work, or any other ideas?
Yeah. I've seen a lot of dealers offer more trade-in dollars for a certain set of vehicles. Okay. So if you come in and trade in, a Ford truck and I'm a Chevy dealer, mm-hmm. I'll pay more. And also that helps build their used car lots as well. Yeah. So I've seen some trade-in offers on that regard. I've also seen some, again, loyalty options. So, if you trade in a Ford and you come over to a Chevy, here's a program we'll set you up with. Maybe it's 3 years free oil changes. And they may offer an element of that to every customer, sure. but just a little bit of an additional incentive. So usually I see just better financing rates, some type of an additional money off if they trade that in. The dare to compares work a lot, or, showcasing if one won an award recently or not, showcasing those items like, Chevy took over this award for this year. So something to look at. And then if, there's a redesign, or again, just marketing the model in general comparatively, I see that work well too.
Yeah. Yeah. How important do you think features are in a vehicle? So that's another thing that I always consider when I'm thinking about, especially these numbers with Conquest and all that. There's a lot of people, myself included, where it's like you have your checklist of these are the 5 things that I want in this car. And it seems like once you have one of those things, then you never want to get rid of it. Yeah. Heated seats 10 years ago, I don't care. But now, boy, it sure is nice in January to have those heated seats. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. How important do you think features are in the vehicle when it comes to, I guess, positioning and marketing and bringing people in?
Yeah, you bring up a good point, because you don't know that you want it or need it until mm-hmm. either you don't have it or you experience it. Because I felt the same way when I get a rental car or when I drive someone else's car and I see a feature. It's like, I never knew I wanted this feature, and now how do I live without it? You know what I mean? So you bring up a good point. I think getting them exposed to those things in any way. So short form video is really popular right now. Yeah. That can be on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I think those are great ways to showcase it, and you could put some ad dollars behind that in strategic areas. Yeah. But it can't be very long. I think a lot of times we think of vehicle walkarounds, or like let me show you how to work your Bluetooth. Yeah. People can Google that, and that exists out there already. I think what people are really interested in is that feature in your Buick that you never knew existed, right? Mm-hmm. And if I saw that video, I'd be like, oh yeah, did I not? Oh my gosh, how have I not known that existed? So I think if dealers could put together some of those short form videos and advertise it that way, I think that would be great too.
Yeah, and finding ways to make it interesting, I think. So something like a heated steering wheel, right? Do you need that? No. Is it nice to have? Yeah. But how do you show that off? So finding creative ways to, I don't know, it's middle of winter and you go out and you start up a car and you got a plastic cup full of snow or whatever, and maybe you set it on the steering wheel and you can do like a fast play or something, right? Speed it up and it melts eventually. I don't know, just interesting ways to show off the features. Not every feature is a 18-inch touchscreen monitor. Right?
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Yeah, you got me thinking, like my dad just got heated seats for the first time. There's those 3 different levels of those heated seats. And I really feel like the 3rd level is like extra toasty. It reminds me of when you get a new toaster and they show you like, here's toaster 1, here's toaster 2.
Right.
I think there could be some creative ways to showcase, like, this is extremely hot. This one's pretty good if you live in Ohio.
Yeah.
Maybe as you get up to Maine, you need level 3 or something like that. So you could start to use the locations a little bit more too.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great idea. Being creative. Again, that's what short form video is all about. Like showing people something that they haven't seen, hopping on a trend, making it funny, making it interesting. I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah. How do you... I don't know. Do you see a lot of dealers that do that on their own? Obviously, a lot of them use Naked Lime or they use other marketing agencies. Sometimes I feel like on the content side, some of it's really good when it comes from a dealer like homegrown. So I don't know what you've seen or what your perspective is on that. Like where does the best content come from? I mean, obviously, strategically targeting it and marketing it, like that's certainly your bread and butter, and it's that's like our bread and butter as a company. And we're really good at content too, but I don't know. I'm just curious because I do see some of the stuff that seems to stick and resonate. It seems like it's a little more homespun.
I think if a dealer has a niche or a brand, I'm thinking of Schultz Ford in Pittsburgh, which Pittsburgh you wouldn't think is really country, but they all wear cowboy hats. They all have a shtick. There's also Carter Chevrolet that's out in Oklahoma. All the salesmen have beards. And at working with these dealers, it is a lot easier to come up with campaigns that showcase their flavor or their brand. And then we can capitalize on that with like marketed campaigns, but we can always use their brand, which I think helps. They usually organize events around their brand in certain ways, like, they're giving away beard oil with every purchase. And so that's easy to advertise, right? And get people bought into. They have contests that surrounds the cowboy hat, and that again makes it more marketable. So I think if you're as a dealership, if you're looking to make a difference in the community, find something to tie it back to. And it doesn't have to be cheesy.
Right.
It can be, we have a lot of dealerships that just use their logo that becomes well-known in the community, or a slogan that becomes well-known. So I don't think it needs to be so outlandish to make all your salesmen grow beards, but I think having something like that will make your marketing efforts a lot more sustainable and a lot more impactful over time.
Yeah, and I think the key is just being authentic, right? Like, who are you? If somebody walks in and talks to you, that's how they should perceive you in your advertising and marketing.
Absolutely.
And if it's bearded, cool. But it doesn't have to be, to your point, it doesn't have to be goofy. Just be authentic.
Absolutely. Yeah. And customers will respond to that too, right? They'll flock there. They'll want to be a part of that family too. That goes back to ownership too, the experience of coming into the dealership, feeling like a friend versus a customer.
Yeah, 100%. All right, Amberly, I wanted to talk about, shift gears a little bit. So obviously you've been with Naked Lime for a long time. We talked about the start of Naked Lime, and we're turning a page here in basically July 1st, coming back into the Reynolds brand, kind of the next step forward and a new growth opportunity for us. But wanted to talk to you about that. I mean, it's a little bittersweet probably for you. It is for me too, right? We have such a passion for what we've done with that brand for a long time. But the good news is, I mean, this is very clearly the right thing to do, and it's the next step forward and an opportunity for us to really create, what's next in marketing and automotive retail. But I don't know, just get your thoughts on it, and I guess how you doing, emotionally, and then get your thoughts on where we're heading.
Yeah, bittersweet for sure. And as it gets closer, I think it becomes more bittersweet. We've talked about all the reasons why, and they have significant merit.
100%.
We're data backed. A lot of the Reynolds programs and products, we're able to, hang on the back of those and make them stronger through marketing. So it makes sense all around. Makes sense on paper. It makes sense when I talk about it. And then I think about the personal journey, and I'm like, oh, this is hard. This is hard to let go, and we're not there yet. So I think it'll be even harder come July 1st. But I've been so impressed with just the reception that we've received already, the growth that Reynolds has seen, the growth in my teammates. I have a lot of teammates that are in the Reynolds infrastructure already, and we're so happy to be a part of that now. I think everybody's, we're all on board with it. It's just now like pushing us off of the little island and getting us back to the mainland is what we're feeling. So.
Well, and we talked about it a little bit earlier. digital marketing has come so far in the last 10 or 15 years. You think back to when it kind of started in auto retail, and it was just some Google text ads and maybe some SEO, whatever that meant at that given time. Seriously, right? And,
so
and
true.
then websites, and so there were these different iterations of what digital marketing even meant, and we've gotten to this point where there's so much power and so much capability when it comes to targeting that having this information, having this kind of single ecosystem to target with and really understand a customer, it's become so important and really paramount to be successful in your marketing efforts and certainly to be efficient in your marketing dollars.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we've been using that, doing that for, the last 5 years. So to now just be able to merge as the brand, it really makes sense because we've over time been able to build this database and be able to house this data and clean this data and then now market this data. We've just been doing it under a different title, a different name, a different booth, a different stress ball, lime versus circular. So really it was blurred and dotty at best. And so just merging them together, it feels right. And I also think it'll open up even more opportunities in the future, right? Now that we are really a part of it, we'll be able to explore other product integrations, team better with other teams. So I think it'll make Reynolds as a whole a lot stronger in the marketing efforts going forward.
Yeah, and it should speed everything up, right? Speed development up, speed all of our processes up. Which is good for everybody, right? It's good for obviously us as a company, but it's great for customers as well, and it'll help us get around those corners faster and see around those corners faster. And I'm excited about kind of the future and the growth and just what's really possible, right? We've been pushing the envelope for a long time, and now having just even more dedicated resources and being able to really attack this, it's going to be a fun next couple of years.
I agree. And so anytime I get down about it, I start to think about that because now I'm like, yeah, it is. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to break down those barriers in the product world and just to have just an easier conversation between the two and it not being either an afterthought or a side thought even. It's a part of the conversation now and we're looking to build on what we're already doing. So yeah, I get excited as well. So Are you doing good? Are you doing okay?
I'm good.
You're good?
I'm good.
You're looking forward to it as well?
Yeah.
Because you were here before its inception too. So you've been here longer than I.
Yeah, so when I got my first sales leadership role, I took over. It was the Reynolds Web Solutions digital marketing team, I think is what it was called. But so it was, RWS, Reynolds Web Solutions, and it was a certain segment of the sales organization. And I remember I told somebody that I was moving into this role, and they're like, "Oh, Naked Lime," and I was like, "Huh?" They said, "You don't know?" I was like, no. Like, well, I figured they'd give you that job. They'd at least give you a heads up. So what are you talking about? So then 2 weeks later, I find out all this stuff's changing.
Wow.
But it was fun. It was a great ride. And it was the right thing for us then, and this is the right thing for us now. So it's really cool to see the evolution of, product and company and making sure that we have the right butts in the seats and people are so important in everything that we do that it's fun to watch the growth and the change over the years.
Yeah, I remember when, we worked together pretty closely in those first couple years when you were over the Reynolds Web Solutions, and that was where I was at. I was in the SEO world and digital advertising world, and I look back on those years really fondly. It was a years full of growth as well. We were, digital becoming new, and it kind of feels like we're on the cusp of that again, right? And so I'm excited to see what the next iteration of leaders who are going to take this on will do and will be, and what their growth engine will be, because I know that there's a lot out there for them. So I'm nostalgic for that time period that we were working together and everything seemed to be clicking and know that we're on the cusp of that again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of it will hinge going forward on what we're able to do with this idea of like CDP, right? There's a lot of talk in the industry around customer data platform, and obviously it's important to have, right? And we've been talking about targeting and data, and that all ties into this. But I think the one thing that I see missing in a lot of these conversations is, what do you do with it? Okay, so you have this data, you have this platform, you have all this information about your customers. Now what? And that's the two dots that I think need to be connected for dealers to really see kind of that leap forward, which is what I'm excited about. And I know that we're focused on is really delivering on that. But yeah, getting from, okay, customer database platform to, okay, now I see results from it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that because it's all kind of new, but everything's coming together nicely.
Yeah, I have been looking at our organization in terms of the CDP and 3 segments. So there's curating the CDP, right? There's getting more customer data into your platform. And you can do that via advertising platforms like digital specifically. You can also do that through Conquest, what we talked about earlier. So, making sure you're retaining your customers and gaining new customers to build your data. So there's curating it. And again, marketing can add to that as well. And then there's segmenting it and maintaining it. So maintaining and segmenting, that can involve the cleaning process, making sure that your owners are still driving the vehicles, some householding, all of those items go into that, but then segmenting it out to who's most likely to buy now, who's most likely to buy in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, etc. And that's the piece that I think can be the toughest part for dealerships because you got this lump of data, you've got all of these people, and it's really hard to draw some comparisons between the two if you don't have a platform to help you with that and a person, most likely. Yeah. So you've got that, you've got it curated, you've got it segmented, and then being able to then target that and use that. So those are the 2 pieces that I think a managed CDP comes into play. So you mentioned the 2 dots. Right. I feel like it's a little bit of 3.
No, that's good.
And I think being able to utilize someone who has a lot more expertise in the targeting and segmenting, I think that can really help bring your dealership to the next level.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you said curating, segmenting, and then targeting. Yeah, I like that a lot. So kind of looking forward, that's a lot of what we've been doing, but there's more to come certainly. So what as you've been talking to dealers and we kind of started talking about your circuit that you've been on lately, so you've gotten to talk to a lot of different people in the industry. Where do you see things kind of heading in the relatively near term? I mean, there's so much going on out there. It's hard to kind of pinpoint and put your finger on what's next and what's new. But have you heard anything that's really kind of sparked your interest, or that you were kind of like, I got to look into that a little bit more?
I think the virtual retailing concept is going to continue to take hold. Being able to have your showroom in your showroom, but also have it all virtually available as well. I think having a lot of digital response and again, digital marketing is going to be the future. So a lot of the virtual retailing pieces seem to be still the buzz. The CDP term is also has been popping up a lot, and people are talking through that too. But I really think that leveraging it and being able to use it to target is still the most important. And I think there are still places that are lacking in that today. Sure. Because it is difficult. It's a lot of information, data analysis. It's its own, profession these days where it really or it's changed that profession over time. Yeah. And so having that be the future, there's always the talk of privacy and how that will impact it, and being able to use your own data. It's your data. So that will help leverage you in that regard too. So it seems like the virtual retailing has still been the buzz, and what I've been hearing at some of these conferences. So any way that you can help your dealership continue to move into the digital age, continue to make it convenient and accessible for your customers, I think it'll pay off. Yeah,
no, that's good. That's good. And I think it's interesting that it is such a common topic still. What that tells me is there's so many that haven't figured it out yet. Right. And it's like, this has been around forever, but we still don't have it kind of nailed down, which is really interesting. So there's a lot of opportunity there. But anytime I hear a topic that is that's popular, it either means A, it's been around for a while and we haven't figured it out, or B, it's new. And that one's one where it's just like, all right, we got some work to do still. Yeah. The other piece of that, I think, is connecting the online experience with the in-person experience. So that could be some elements of the website and making, are you going to be able to sell a car online? Is that going to, are we going to be able to make that work? Or is it, how is your marketing going to change when you do that? And so to your point, I think I don't think we've
totally figured out all the pieces. Each of us, or most of us, have all the pieces, right? The pieces exist, but being able to put them in a cohesive ecosystem and making sure that the customer is at the center of that ecosystem, I think we're getting close in a lot of avenues. But that seems to be the best focus right now, is how can we make this the most convenient, best experience for the customer, no matter if they're looking for us online, in store, and then whatever they're looking for, do we have what they need when they need it?
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Well, Amberly Montgomery, appreciate the conversation for sure. I want to be respectful of your time, though. So before we hop off, anything we haven't touched on that you want to, or anything that we should talk about that we haven't?
I think we hit a lot of good stuff today. I've really enjoyed our conversation. We've hit everything from the Defection report to Naked Lime and Reynolds merging together. So I think I'm good.
Good. Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. It was a ton of fun, and we'll have to do it again soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Greg.
All right. Thanks. Well, that was a really fun conversation with my old friend Amberly Montgomery. I appreciate her stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did today. Before you hop off, don't forget you can watch or listen to new episodes of Connected on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify podcasts, and make sure to hit subscribe so you're notified every other week when new episodes are released. Thanks so much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.